Hi there, it's Jen from modernmedicinelady.com and the Empathic Woman System, and the word of the day is changeable. And I choose this word because I want to share a story that involves my husband, and this is kind of a nod to him because tomorrow is our 15th wedding anniversary. And this is one of his favorite stories to tell other people about me, particularly when he's teasing me. And so a number of years ago, probably about 10 years ago, we got into following a raw food diet. And when we were a ways into it, like I was a couple months into the food plan and into the diet, and I was loving it. My body was, I had energy, I felt fantastic. I was waking up feeling all enthusiastic and excited, and I was like, oh my God, this is the best thing since the invention of the wheel. I wish everybody knew about it. This is the answer to everything. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, this is just great. And so, in the way that I can get very excited about things and very enthusiastic and very passionate, I came to the conclusion, maybe about 6 months into this food plan, that I wanted to get rid of our stove. And so I told my husband I wanted to get rid of our stove, and he's like, yeah, no, we're not getting rid of the stove. And I'm like, but, we're never going to need it again. We're just never going to need it again. I mean, we could use all that space for fruits and vegetables, kind of like in the movie Step Brothers when oh God, Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly are like, can we put our beds together and make bunk beds so we have more room for activities? Anyway, if you've not seen that movie, it's hysterically funny. I highly recommend it. But so I was convinced that getting rid of the stove was like, it just made sense. He was not, because he had the ability to see that while I imagined that this was a permanent change in me and that this was something that was going to last forever, he had the ability to see that there was the possibility that I was going to be changeable and that we were going to be changeable and that we were going to need the stove again someday. So fast forward a number of months later, about actually even like more than a year later, and I was starting to have problems with the way that the diet was affecting my body, particularly because I was having issues with my blood sugar, and a diet that was so high in fruit and also so high in nuts was just really not working for me. My system was not happy, and I was getting really high blood sugar as a result. And I was starting to need to make changes. I was starting to need to adapt. And what I discovered was that I needed to shift to a very low carbohydrate, high fat diet. And guess what? I started using the stove again. And if I had gone with my impulse, if I had gone with that idea that I was never going to change again, and that this was the solution that was going to be the answer to all my problems, and absolutely everything was going to be different because I was going to get rid of the stove, I would have really ended up basically up a creek needing a stove again at some point, like about a year later. Fortunately, the cooler head of my husband prevailed, and we were able to keep the stove. Thank you, honey. And I was able to also, fortunately, recognize the signs that my body was ready to adapt, needed to adapt, and had the willingness to be changeable. So I think there's a lot of pieces to this story, and there's a lot of lessons in this story. One is that sometimes what we think is the permanent solution is not as permanent as we imagine it is. Sometimes also we need to, even with something that we think is going to work forever, it doesn't always work forever, and as a result, we need to have the willingness to look for the signals and look for the signs that are letting us know that it's time to make a change, and we need to be willing to be changeable in order to go towards what's best for us. If I had stayed rigid, if I had stayed stuck, if I had just stayed absolutely fixed and married to the idea that I was not going to have a stove and that I was going to remain, I was going to just stay following this raw food diet, I know that my body would have really started to crash and burn because I already was starting to crash and burn. So, my question to you is, what's your stove? What's the thing that you think is like not going to change and that you can make some kind of a rash decision that you could just, and that you could go and do that? Like, what is your stove? And also, how do you recognize when you're ready for a change or need to make an adjustment? What are the signs for you? What are the signals? What are the ways that you know that it's time to shift? And it's also just time to acknowledge that something that had been working is no longer working for you. So, in light of my 15th wedding anniversary, I just want to wish my husband David a very happy anniversary and let you know that I love you very much. And I'm so grateful that you're here, and I'm so grateful that you made me keep the stove. So thank you for being here, and thank you for hanging on to our stove. And to all of the rest of you, I hope happy fall equinox, and I wish you a very blessed autumn. And also, keep your stove.